I've made no secret over the years of my fondness for the Symphogear series, and now that the series has supposedly come to a close with the conclusion of its 5th season, I can safely say that my fondness has only grown ever stronger. The series is still too fresh for a full series retrospective, but for now, let's just discuss what made this concluding season a resounding success. The broad thematic focus of Symphogear XV, well, it's probably present in some form throughout the whole series, but is especially prominent here, is on communication and the value of human connections. All of this is reflected through one of the major plot elements, the Curse of Bilal, and the relationship between two main characters, Hibiki and Miku. These elements are pretty intertwined, so let's see if we can break them down a little and make sense of the whole thing. Within Symphogear, the Curse of Bilal is an allusion to a story within one of the world's oldest and most famous pieces of fiction, the Bible.
So, I was gonna hold up a copy of the old good book here, but turns out I don't have a copy. This was the closest thing to. This'll do, right?
Genesis 11 tells of the Tower of Babel. In short, a bunch of people got together and got along pretty well thanks to being able to speak the same language, and because they worked so well together, they decided to build a tower that could reach the heavens. The Big G man saw what they were doing and, in what has universally been described as a dick move, scattered the people all across the lands and made them speak different languages so they couldn't work together so good no more. Now, I'm not here to speculate on the meaning or intention behind ancient fiction, but it's worth noting that Symphogear pulled its Curse of Bilal straight from this story. After all, the name Babel in Tower of Babel is pulled straight from the Hebrew word Bilal, which became the name of the curse, and the effect of the Curse of Bilal in Symphogear, that being hindering humanity's ability to communicate with and understand one another, along with, as it turns out, keeping them separated from an ancient godlike entity, are pretty much the same effects as what happened in the original story. Symphogear's reimagining of this ancient tale takes what was a short set of almost throwaway lines and actually tries to examine what the consequences of that curse, or God's dick move, may be. Within the Bible, the story of the Tower of Babel functions as a mythological explanation for why there are so many cultures and languages scattered across the world today. If you really want to stretch your meanings, you could say that this story, this curse, is the source of all human conflict, being unable to communicate and understand others due to cultural and linguistic differences that arose from this one event. Symphogear takes this mythological idea and both humanizes it through Hibiki and Miku, and literalizes it through this season's Big Bad. On that literal front, the Big Bad is an actual godlike figure named Shemha, whose goal is to, if I'm interpreting this right, unite herself and humanity into one big collective to increase her power, and the only thing that was preventing her from doing that was the Curse of Bilal. Just as the Big G man prevented humanity from reaching him at the Tower of Babel, so too is humanity separated from Shemha thanks to the Curse of Bilal. Thus, the curse isn't about keeping humanity separated from each other, it's about keeping them protected from God. Shemha would argue that her uniting humanity is a good thing. After all, they fight a lot and struggle to understand each other, something that wouldn't happen if she united them. But, of course, an artificial unity is not the answer to anyone's problems. You can't blame a curse for your problems and expect a god to fix it for you. No, the onus is on humanity to fix their own problems, and in no way is that better shown than in the relationship between Hibiki and Miku. The big struggle for both Hibiki and Miku this season is not dealing with some huge world-ending threat, but figuring out how to move their relationship to the next level. They're both struggling to find the right words to say to each other to communicate, though they both want to so badly. Theirs is the most basic common struggle of humanity, simply talking with and understanding one another. That's the very thing that Shemha offers them and that they reject, because it's not up to a god to figure that stuff out for them. They've got to do that on their own. It's important to note that within the grander Symphogear narrative, both Hibiki and Miku were freed from the Curse of Bilal way back in Season 2, and yet despite being freed from that curse, they still had to deal with that basic human struggle supposedly caused by the curse. This goes to show that you can't blame some abstract curse or something for your problems. Breaking that curse won't solve your problems, nor will praying to a god. It's entirely up to us to overcome the barriers between us. We need to sit down and talk to each other and put in the effort to understand each other. Us, humanity, and no one else. Our human connections only have value because we have to struggle to truly make them. And ultimately, at the end of the season, at the end of the series, that's what Hibiki and Miku do. Beyond the influence of any god or other outside force, they decide for themselves to talk to each other, to confess the feelings that were always in their heart. If you ever want to truly understand someone, don't let any made-up barriers get in your way. Don't make up excuses, just reach out and talk to them. That's the way.
This is the way.
This being Symphogear, there's of course a whole lot more I could gush about, from the omnipresent and almost overpowering rule of cool to the roles all the other characters played, in particular the anti-nationalist undertones of Tsubasa's arc, but I think I've already pinned down the heart of the season and spent plenty of time discussing the appeal of the series in general besides, so if it's all the same to you, I think I'm content to leave it at that. Thanks for sitting through my brief rambling about the final season of the only idol anime that matters. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what Symphogear has meant for all of you over the years. For me, well, it's a whole lot, but if I had to sum it up, I think the closing shot of this season does just nicely. Thanks again for watching, and just like Hibiki and Miku, don't forget to be gay and do crimes.